Gilly Davy is here today from New Zealand to talk with us about exercise as medicine. I'm told she's an incredibly passionate physiotherapist with an extensive expert experience in treating a wide range of neurological conditions. She graduated from the University of Brighton in the UK in 2004 with a Bachelor of Science in Physiotherapy with honours. Wow. Working in the UK National Health Service until she moved to Auckland in 2006 and worked in both the public and private healthcare system, specialising in neurological physiotherapy. Gilly spent 4 years in Sydney between 2012 to 2016 at the Advanced Rehab Centre, one of Australia's leading neurological rehabilitation clinics, as a senior clinician and educator. She was awarded the Australian Physiotherapy Association 2015 Award of Achievement in Neurological Physiology. Also made an honorary clinical fellow of the Australian Catholic University in 2016. She returned to New Zealand in 2016 and is now the clinical director at Connect Neuro Physiotherapy. Ladies and gentlemen, Gilly Davy. Thank you.
Now I'm just going to, I hope everyone can hear me because I'm lapelled up because I tend to move a little bit being a physio. But that's an amazing start to a talk to be introduced by someone who's so inspiring. And I think that's something that I've had the real pleasure of my 15-year career as a physio, that I have the opportunity to meet inspiring individuals on a day-to-day basis. And that's really special. And I'd just like to give another really big hand to Ian, because he is the model of what I'm going to talk to you about today. So thank you very much to PACT for inviting me over. It's always an absolute pleasure to have the opportunity to share knowledge. Because at the end of the day, there's not much point in me having lots of brains and knowledge if I can't share it to everyone else. That's happening. So as Ian introduced, I'm actually based now in Auckland in New Zealand. If the camera comes on to me and I have some bags, it is because I've been up since the equivalent of 2 a.m. Okay, to get here for today. And I am the certified PD Warrior teacher in New Zealand, but I'm also LSVT Big certified as well, which some of those programs individuals be familiar with here, some of them not, and I will talk a little bit more about them. So my real role is about providing hope, because how we train a neurophysio and all neurological conditions, the hope is really different from when I trained 15 years ago. In about the last 5 to 8 years, we're starting to see a real change in what we can do with exercise from a neurodegenerative point of view. And I'll talk a lot more about that in this talk. But as I say, my job is to hopefully give you guys some passion and some energy to put a little bit of what I talk about today into practice. So today's journey, we're going to talk about exercise's influence on Parkinson's and the general aging effect, because also in this audience here we've got individuals with Parkinson's, but we've also got those amazing support networks around you as well, and we want to keep you really healthy and strong. Have a little more look at the specificity of what you can do for Parkinson's, and I'll cover some of the important bits of why you need to do this. So can I just have a show of hands for those who are on medication for your Parkinson's? Who takes their medication regularly? Can you put your hands up really nice and big? This is the stretching exercise of today. Okay, now keep your hand up if you take your medication daily and you exercise daily. Okay, now this is the first thing I would just like you to think a little bit about. Is that someone really important, they don't wear white coats anymore, but my picture is off Google, which has someone in a white coat, okay, is because that really important neurologist or doctor or GP told you that that medication was going to make a significant effect on your quality of life. They may have told you that it would not affect the progression of your Parkinson's, but they told you it was going to be good for you and you needed it. Now, when a physio tells you that you need to exercise every day for your Parkinson's, because it has a potential to slow the degeneration down, it's a lot harder to do. So we'll talk a little bit about why some of that compliance to exercises also struggle. So first of all, you have to be honest here, okay? Can you put your hand up and keep it up if you exercise once a week? Okay, so once a week or more. Okay, so once a week or more, hands up nice and proud. Now keep your hands up, okay, if you exercise more than twice a week. Okay, keep them up if you exercise more than 3 times a week, 4 times a week, 5 times a week, 6 times a week. All right, and those people that have still got their hands up, can we have a round of applause for those guys? Okay. Now, if you didn't even put your hand up for exercising 1 day a week, okay, then this is the main aim that we're going to hopefully change that. Now, pop your hand up if you think or you know that your exercise is specifically affecting your Parkinson's. Are you confident with what you're doing is affecting your Parkinson's? And we've got quite a few hands. Now, is anyone brave enough to shout out why or what the effect of their exercise is having on their Parkinson's? Improved movement? Balance? Coordination? Mood, oh, that's a good one. Excellent. So what type of exercises are people doing to get that improvement? We got boxing, dancing, Nordic walking. Awesome. Okay. So what I'm going to talk a little bit more around is actually some of the clinical kind of principles that things like Nordic walking, boxing, and Parkinson's touch on to actually specifically help your Parkinson's. Now this is the next one of show of hands. Make sure you use the other hand this time to stretch yourself out. Pop your hand up if you get out of breath when exercising. Really high so I can see. Now that's a pretty good show of hands. However, as a bit of a guesstimation with the light here, I would still say that's probably only 20% of the crowd. Whether you have Parkinson's or not, you need to get puffing and panting out of breath through exercise. Okay, that's even if you've got heart conditions, lung conditions. Okay, and it's all to do with brain health as well as heart and lung health. So this is a beautiful picture of the brain. Okay, we've had a fantastic talk, or talks already today about the advances in the medical side of neurology, and something we've had is these great neuroimaging pictures have also come out, which are really beautiful. They kind of go a little bit with the artwork, I think, at the back. But when you exercise, a lot of people think about the benefits of exercise regarding fitness, strength, improving their mobility, reducing their, their risk of falling, keeping their heart strong, their bones strong. But one of the main things that exercise does is that it produces magic in your brain. Now, when we're talking about, I'm not standing here saying that exercise is going to cure or stop Parkinson's, but it does slow it down. But however, the challenge is we've had some fabulous researchers stand up today and say that there is no way of slowing Parkinson's down. And the thing is, from a physiological point of view, it's quite right. We don't know if exercise is impacting the actual neurophysiological decline of Parkinson's. That's what we don't know. But what we do know is exercise hugely impacts the declining part of aging, and we also know that inactivity makes everything get worse quicker. So when I'm talking about slowing the progression of Parkinson's, what we've already seen from the hands that go up in the room is it's inactivity that causes a huge issue of Parkinson's. Now, who here has Parkinson's and finds it difficult to exercise? Put your hand up. Okay, be brave, there's a few. A huge amount of it is the non-motor symptoms, which I'll come to in the moment. okay, because it's not an easy thing to exercise and exercise hard enough. When you get absolutely vigorously out of breath, okay, vigorous exercise, you get hot, you get sweaty, you produce hormones in the brain called brain-derived neurotrophic factor, nerve growth hormones, and insulin-like growth factors. They're the things that increase what we call the synaptic activity in the brain and ultimately reduce axon dieback. Now, unfortunately, from the age of 25, we are all experiencing some brain loss, and we saw that on Anthony's slides earlier, that he showed that just through the natural aging process that we are all getting some brain decline. However, with the Parkinson's, it's speeded up. But what we know of exercise is that that decline can be slowed down. So this is the first part of exercise that all of you need to do. Just make sure you've got enough room, okay, because you are going to stand up and sit down, okay? So move your chairs back a little bit if you need to. Put your pens down. No one warned you that this was a participation program, did they? Okay. All right, so if you've got enough space, what you're going to do is I'm going to just put my clicker down so I don't throw it at anyone. Okay, so you are going to stand up and push out in front and sit back down, okay? You've got 5 of those as fast as you can, up and push, okay, nice and quick, okay, really making sure you get up and down, big push out there. The faster you go, the more out of breath you've got. When you've done your 5, you can take a sit down. Do we hear some knees cracking? Yeah, I thought so. Some people ate too many sweets at afternoon tea. Okay, what you just did, okay, if you did that hard enough to just get some blood pumping, is that you just put that beautiful blood supply to your brain. Now, isn't that an amazing picture of the density of the arterial blood supply to your brain? If you have not got out of breath from exercise in the last week, in the last month, potentially the last few years, your brain is not going to look like that. It needs a healthy blood supply. 85% of your brain is water. Okay, who here drinks a minimum of 1.5 to 2 litres of water a day? Okay, and again, I'm going to say that we've got about 30%. If you are drinking less than that, and that's obviously if you're not on a fluid restriction, you know, due to any medical conditions, your brain isn't going to be a nice juicy grape, as I call it. It's probably going to look like a shriveled raisin. Okay, so if you want to do something instantly to improve brain health, and I see a few people have grabbed their glasses of water, quick, okay, it has to be water. We can't go with the Pinot Noir and the duck, that's for later, okay. So it's about getting this blood supply. So if you are not exercising, this doesn't happen. So when we're talking about exercise, and I'm talking here about exercise as medicine, but there is 4 pillars for brain health. The first one is about staying educated. As a human, we're a species that has evolved to learn throughout our lifetime. I see the biggest decline in Parkinson's when individuals retire. And there's 2 reasons why. When they retire, they stop learning, they stop their activity, and they often, especially with men, their social circle dramatically declines. Okay? So no matter what part through the disease process you are or how old you are, ask yourself, what are you doing to learn something new? If you've been doing crosswords and Sudoku for the last 10 years, that isn't helping your brain health anymore. It needs to be something new. Okay, ideally something that involves a bit of movement. So learning to dance, that we saw earlier, learning to play some music, okay, learning to do some craft work, but it can be as simple as learning languages, okay, going and learning something from, online university. But the brain has evolved to learn. As soon as you stop challenging it, it stops working so well. Obviously, exercise, and I'll talk a little bit more about the exercise part. The other one, the one with the brain on the phone, is saying socially interactive. Okay? When you are struggling with thought process, when your speech has got quieter and slower, and harder to articulate? Who here finds that they're not participating in conversations around the dinner table as much? Okay, quite a few, especially if it's a busy environment, okay? So then you're starting to become more socially isolated. And this is a huge issue. So we need to make sure that you're staying socially connected. So if you're finding it difficult in big groups, make sure you're spending some time catching up in a smaller group, okay? And as a support person, try and allow the individual to finish their sentences. Okay? Who finishes their sentences for their loved one? Quite a few, okay? So patience is a virtue, okay? And the fourth one on there is good quality sleep. Now, who here with Parkinson's struggles to sleep? Yeah, that's a good show of hands, isn't it? So it is difficult. I'm not going to go into sleep hygiene and how to look after sleep today because I've only got a condensed time to talk. But if you are not sleeping well, then it is worth talking to a specialist about that because it has a huge effect on your brain health. So, again, I really loved Anthony's slides before because he had that really beautiful part of where diagnosis is, which is often 10 to 20 years, okay, in the sense of the motor signs are showing that much later after what we think the initial start is. But by the time you get diagnosed, you have lost 70 to 80% of your dopamine-producing cells. So should you wait to start exercise? Should you wait to start doing something neuroprotectively? Because when most people get diagnosed, you're pretty good. You might have had a bit of a tremor. You might have had an arm that didn't swing, okay, and you noticed a few signs. Okay, so a lot of people are getting diagnosed and then they're leaving it for several years before they seek help. And that's too late because as Anthony really clearly showed, we need to be finding these people before our current diagnosis page because it is too late. So if you've been diagnosed, and one of our goals as neurophysios, and especially under like the PD Warrior and the LSVT Big banners, is we want everyone who's diagnosed with Parkinson's to be referred directly to a neurophysio or an exercise physiologist with Parkinson's experience straight away, so we can get this good exercise health behaviour happening immediately and not 5-10 years down the line. The hardest part about training and exercise and with Parkinson's is it's there 24 hours a day. And any of you that have done things like LSVT Big, okay, which is this beautiful big movements, okay, and I can guarantee I could get anyone up from the audience now who's got a real shuffle and make you walk beautifully, but I guarantee as soon as you get off the stage and around the corner, you'll go back to being a shuffle, okay, because it's a 24-hour thing. And to try and change something that is with you all the time involves constant input, and why you need a really good support network around you to prompt you. It's called prompting, not nagging, okay? Make that clear. So all of those people that get accused of nagging, it's called prompting, okay? So you need the prompting, you need the support crew, you need to be seeing the specialists, okay, regarding those physios and exercise physiologists and personal trainers who have the experience with Parkinson's to keep you going. I'm on a bit of a rampage at the moment about exercise as non-negotiable. It's been my thing for about the last 8 weeks, I think. Because it dawned on me, and I have these, often these thoughts when I'm out running myself, that the human body evolved thousands of years ago. We evolved to be bipedal, on 2 feet, and have these limbs to be really active and move. And we've been like this for thousands of years. And then we had the Industrial Revolution, and our activity levels changed. And then in my lifetime, we've had the technology revolution, and activity levels have dramatically dropped. So we're now at a stage where actually exercise used to be negotiable because people had active jobs. People used to walk to work, Okay, they used to have a garden. They used to just be physically active. Now we have a population where activity is really hard to achieve because they get up, they sit in their car to go to work, they sit at the office desk all day, and they sit in the car to come home. They may be amazing and do an hour at the gym every day, but they've actually worked out with research, they call them now the gym-based couch potato. That an hour at the gym, if you spend the other 15 hours of your 16 hours awake sat down, doesn't cancel each other out. It is baseline activity that can make a huge difference. So if you think of your beautiful human body that you have, and just because you've been diagnosed with Parkinson's, you haven't lost having what we call a normal body. You've still got the same heart, lungs, muscles, skeletal system that needs to move and needs to be exercised. Okay? And if you start not exercising, there is only one way that Parkinson's is going to go. So symptom presentation, I'm sure some of the neurologists and other speakers probably went through this, but motor symptoms. As I said, most of you will be diagnosed when you showed a motor symptom, which means that your non-motor symptoms have often been present about 10 to 20 years beforehand. It is the non-motor symptoms that make participating in exercise really difficult. If you are apathetic, demotivated, fatigued, and depressed, and stressed, how easy is it going to be for you to exercise? Really difficult. And this is something that's really key for the support team. Wives, husbands, daughters, sons, carers, that you feel like you're always telling them to go to the dance class and you're always trying to do this and you're like, oh, well, I've just given up. I've tried to encourage them to do something all the time. The unfortunate part is that they are going to need encouragement, or you are going to need encouragement for your lifespan because you are lacking dopamine, which is one of the key hormones to actually give you that upbeat to go and get those goals and be motivated and feel good. So just to be clear on some of these motor symptoms, because Anthony talked about subgrouping types of Parkinson's. Now, in the physical therapy world, we've started to do that because research has shown there is different ways for exercise to impact different subgroups of Parkinson's. So under that idiopathic umbrella, most people tend to either be tremor dominant or bradykinesia dominant. So tremor dominant is obviously the shake. The bradykinesia is that small, slow movement, the lack of arm swing, the lack of rotation, or the shuffle. Okay? And we treat them quite differently, which I'll come on to later. Rigidity. Now, rigidity is really interesting. Who here has Parkinson's and has lower back pain? Now, look around at how many hands are in the room. Quite a lot. The reason is one of the main muscle groups that gets rigidity, it's your trunk muscles. Okay, so in a normal upright posture, we should have what we call lumbar lordosis, the curve in the lower spine. And guarantee if you look at most people walking around this room, they don't have it anymore. Okay? And that is because of rigidity of the trunk muscles, that the rigidity is that the muscles have switched on and they're not letting go. Okay, so if you stand and stay like this most of the time, it puts a lot of biomechanical load through that spine. Okay, so we need to think about being mobile, and to help rigidity, I definitely recommend things like having a massage once a month, acupuncture, those types of things to try and help maintain your muscle integrity. Postural instability is just our fancy word to say falls risk or poor balance. We've got the freezing, the dyskinesia, and the dystonia, which are all quite complex and all need to, again, be treated quite differently. So when we treat Parkinson's as an expert in this avenue, we don't just go, here's a set of exercise, off you go. The way I treat someone with dyskinesia is very different to how I treat someone with dystonia. So when we're looking at the cardinal signs of Parkinson's, I think it's really depressing, actually. You go on Google and that's the first picture you find is that, old stooped over person. I think we need a bit more of a glamorous you know, Parkinson's model on Google. But we've got what I call the sock puppet hand or the mittens, okay? And people are like, the what? So everyone in the room here, I want you to just go and either try and do your top button. Oh, sorry, I didn't hit my mic there. Your top button, or ladies, you can go to an earring, tie. Okay, now if I don't have Parkinson's, I get my other fingers out of the way. So everyone can give this a go. If you've got Parkinson's, can you feel that your other fingers have just got in the way? Okay, it's like wearing a pair of mittens. Okay, and has anyone tried to do complex, fine tasks wearing a pair of mittens? It's really hard. So now try and lift those extra free fingers out of the way and go back to whatever task you were doing. And can you feel it's a little easier to get hold of it? It's all about thinking big. An important thing to understand, both as the individual with Parkinson's and very importantly for the support person, is what we call a change in sensory calibration. As an individual with Parkinson's, you know that your movements aren't as good as what they were. You know that you might be a little bit slower. You know that your walking might be a bit stiffer, or you tend to scuff the ground. However, you believe that you're moving normally. What we see as the bystander is someone shuffling and not moving so well. And I have this in my clinic all the time. As I said, I can pretty much guarantee I can get anyone with Parkinson's up here and make you walk big, mostly because I'm really good at shouting. Okay, that you will walk big and the support person will go, oh, they look amazing. And then they'll shuffle off, okay? And the support person's like, but they can move amazingly. And the problem is you imagine thinking and having to think about how you move all day, every day. When you get up and go and make a cup of tea at the back of the room there, I don't think, stand up, left, right, left. I think about, I wonder if there's any of that amazing chocolate brownie that was left over. Okay, we think about other things because as human beings, we dual task. So it's very difficult. So an individual with Parkinson's needs to be prompted, okay, and be reminded a lot to move big, and often taking secret video is very handy. Okay? If you see someone shuffling around, just take a little video of them and then show them. And I have guaranteed that I video everyone on their initial assessment, and most people are absolutely shocked with how they look on video. I have a huge box of tissues in my room, actually, because it is really confronting. Okay? And then they go, oh, I'm not moving how I feel I'm moving. So historically, individuals come to physio and exercise too late because they are told to come to physio when things start going wrong. Newly diagnosed, you're good. You don't need to see anyone. When you start falling, you can go see a physio. When the research has been well proven, actually just out of Sydney University under Colin Canning a couple of years ago, that once an individual with Parkinson's has started falling, our ability to stop it is really, really slim. So we need to see people before you start falling. If you are in that later stages of Parkinson's, there's still a hell of a lot that we can do for you. And if I click now, hopefully this video, it looks like the wrong way around, but I think it's going to, oh no, it didn't work. If I go back. No, I don't know if our technical man can you play that video at all from where you are there? Oh, there we go. So this is for someone who's freezing. Unfortunately, I didn't have a video of him walking before I put the tape down. But this is using visual cues. This approach has been around for about the last 20 years, developed by Meg Morris, who's actually a researcher down in Melbourne. So there is still a lot of approaches that we do, okay, for those with the more progressed Parkinson's. However, as I say, this historical approach isn't helping. We need to get people before they get to this stage. So what we've got here is principles of exercise. So a few of you have talked about, we had boxing, Nordic walking, dancing. Okay, so it doesn't matter what type of exercise you do. And someone really lovely said from the Parkinsons, the offbeat group, is that it was fun. And fun was really important because it meant they were going to do it more. And that is one of the principles that's actually missing off that slide at the moment, okay? So it doesn't matter what you do, it's how you do it. And those principles include amplitude training, and we're going to go through all of these in a moment. We've got the high intensity, we've got power, we've got specificity, which is the physio fancy term for being individual, okay? And we've got challenging and frequency. So we're going to go through those now, okay? So high intensity is about getting that heart rate up, okay, and putting in output effort. So most individuals with Parkinson's will believe that they're putting in a lot more effort than they actually are. So where we need to get people is about the 8 out of 10. So if 10 is you absolutely can't put in any more effort, 8 is really close to 10. Now, I can guarantee that when I train any individual with Parkinson's, no one leaves my clinic at 8 out of 10 in the first few days, because it's really hard to actually learn how to get to 8. And this intensity work and forced use has had some really good input. So there's a great study here by Rigel back in 2009, where they got a cohort of individuals with Parkinson's, split them into 2 groups, and the one group got on an exercise bike 3 times a week for 45 minutes for 8 weeks and pedaled at their self-selected pace. Okay, 3 times a week, 45 minutes, self-selected. The other group, 3 times a week for 45 minutes on a bike, but it was an exercise bike which was tandemed with a personal trainer. Okay, and they were forced to pedal at 80 to 90 reps per minute. Okay, so if anyone jumps on a bike and has an exercise bike at home, see how fast you self-selectively go. At the end of those 8 weeks, no surprise, both groups were fitter. If you're going to get on a bike 3 times a week for 45 minutes, you definitely hope that you'd get fitter. Okay. However, it was the group that just did the self-selected pedal only got fitter. The group that were forced out of their comfort zone into that 8 to 9 out of 10 pace, they showed significant decline or significant improvement, so a dropping down in their numbers of what we call the UPDRS score. So that's a way that both neurologists and researchers score the effects of Parkinson's. Tremor had improved, which is really interesting because they were on a bike. They were doing nothing about their upper limb tremor. They were only working their legs, but it shows that exercise has a systemic effect on the brain. A year follow-up, the group that had been forced out of their comfort zone had not increased their medication dose, whereas the group that had been self-selected, nearly all of them had required more medication to manage their symptoms. So finding the intensity to work at is difficult, okay? And you need to really be confident with pushing yourself there. So how often do you need to get out of breath? 3 to 4 times a week. The good news is that we're not turning you into Olympic marathon runners. Okay, it could be as simple as 3 30-second sprints on an exercise bike. And if you are sprinting on an exercise bike, my recommendation is at 0 resistance, so no resistance, and you're trying to get to 120 RPM. Now, quite a few of you will go, oh, 120? And that is because normal walking pace is 110 to 120 steps per minute. Okay, so if you have a bike at home or you go to a gym where there's a bike, give it a little test. You may be nowhere near 120 at the moment, but that's all right. You can work towards it. So 3 to 4 times a week, even just getting out of breath for a few sets of 30 seconds will be enough to start making a difference. Okay, and it's normal when you exercise to get sore, tired, sweaty, and out of breath and hurt a little bit the next day. Okay, don't be scared of that. So amplitude, okay, so this is where everyone's going to help each other out. We've got to think big, okay, so just to make sure that we're not going to hit anyone here, we're going to do a movement out in front. So everyone's going to make a really tight fist. Okay, now you're going to look around next to your buddy, and you're going to make sure that that fist is tight. I don't want any hands like this. Okay, it's a tight fist. Okay, now you're going to flick your hands out in front of you. Just watch things like glasses and coffee caps in front, like you're going to catch a beach ball, and open up your fingers as much as you can, like you're going to split the skin in between. Now, if you are sat next to someone who doesn't look like that they've got their fingers big enough, can you just go and open them up for me? And show them where amplitude is, because this is part of this sensory calibration. Everyone thinks they've opened up their hands big, but then if your buddy next to you can actually stretch them a bit further, you are not at end range amplitude. Now grab them back. Now flick them out. Are they as big as what they were? Make them bigger. Stretch them. Okay, you haven't not allowed to move them back yet. You've got to stretch them, got to stretch them. Okay, now I want you to grab your arms back at an 8 out of 10 effort. So grab them back. That wasn't very good, guys. Okay. Make a fist, tight, tight. I want to see fingers in. Now you're going to flick those hands out with everything you can. Okay, who thinks they are anywhere close to 50% of their flick? I don't know. Okay, spread those fingers more. Okay, let's do 3 flicks, and I want you to get 80% effort, but you're going to hold it out here for a 3-second hold to make sure you're big enough. So we're going to grab back, we're going to flick out. Now stretch those fingers, grab back, flick out. Okay, now last one, grab back and flick out. Check your buddy. Are those hands as big as they possibly can? Good, and then give them a little relax. Well done. So who here with their Parkinson's believes that it's made them weak? Who thinks they've got muscle weakness from their Parkinson's? Yeah, go on, put your hands up, because I can't, yeah, perfect. All right. This is a little fact to understand. Parkinson's hasn't made you weak, inactivity has. Weakness is not a primary symptom of Parkinson's. It's a secondary. Loss of power is a primary symptom of Parkinson's. So power is your ability to move a muscle with force at speed. And a classic power movement that we do is get up out of a chair. Who here struggles to get up out of a low chair? Lots of hands. Okay, it's because you're lacking power. Lack of power leads to weakness. So any exercise that is power focused is going to be beneficial. So this is the 3rd out of those 7 principles, that if you're doing an exercise that gets you out of breath, you've ticked a box. If you're doing an exercise that's making you think big, and there were some beautiful movements in that dance class earlier, I was taking a lot of note with how big those individuals were going. You've ticked a box. If you're doing an exercise that involves some point of power, okay, so i.e. boxing's quite good, because if you box a bag, then you know that's not very powerful compared to getting some real auditory feedback. So something that can give you some output, okay, is really important. The other one is challenge, okay? Now this is really difficult, because to create change in the brain and to drive that neurological protection in a general brain, you need to challenge yourself, and it has to be at a percentage that 50% of the time you're getting the exercise wrong. And as humans, we don't really like that, and especially as adults and as aging adults, because we all went to school and we were all forced to do things we didn't like, correct? Okay? Then as we've grown up, we have molded our career, where we live, who we socialize with, and what hobbies we do to be what we like, and often what we're good at. So when we have someone up here saying you should come and join the Parkinson's group, the dance group, and lots of people would go, oh no, I've got 2 left feet. Oh no, I'd be useless at it. It would be perfect for you. Because if you are getting it wrong, that is when you are going to challenge your brain sufficiently enough, okay? So here's a little brain challenge for you. Okay, again, just make sure you've got plenty of room there. Hang on, I'm just going to check how I'm doing on time. Oh, plenty of time, so I'm good. Okay, so we're going to go, it's a little bit like the dance one, actually. I can't do a beat, so don't follow me. Okay, so we're going to go slap on the thighs. We're going to go clap. We're going to go click, click. So slap, clap, click, click, slap, clap. Good, so get that going, nice and quick. Beautiful, okay. Each round, if you started with your right hand clicking, you're then going to start with your left hand. Then you're going to go back to your right hand. Then your left hand. Okay, keep that going. All the ladies in the room, you are going to give me fruits and vegetables through the alphabet out loud while you do it. All the men in the room, you are going to give me the 8 times table backwards. Off you go, nice and loud as we go. Go on really loud. I want to hear some more numbers. Give me a G, give me a fruit or vegetable, give me a G. Beautiful, well done guys, stop there, that was excellent. Okay. So doing something complex doesn't have to be scary. It can actually be a lot of fun, okay? And this is actually me and the receptionist at work trying to do a video for a Parkinson's group, and I think it took us 8 takes for us to coordinate ourselves to do this. and actually it ended up changing, I think, nearly every time we did it, so it was quite funny. So try something new. As I said, the brain has evolved to learn, okay? Is it boxing and dancing? I am a Nordic walking enthusiast and learnt Nordic walking over 10 years ago, and specifically for Parkinson's. I've actually written an international training module on Parkinson's and Nordic walking. So I'm going to give that a big plug. And we've got obviously the amazing Kristen Pratt here that provides that service. But, you know, really think about what are you doing. I often say to my individuals that I work with, try and learn something new every 6 months or every 12 months, okay? Now, daily, okay? As I mentioned, I started this talk with all of you, not all of you, those of you on Parkinson's, with Parkinson's on medication, take your medication regularly because someone, you know, has told you to and you know it's going to make a difference. I'm now telling you here as an expert that exercise is going to have profound effects on your Parkinson's and the degeneration of your Parkinson's. Now, is it having an effect on the neuropathological effect of Parkinson's? We don't know, but it has a massive effect on your aging. Okay, now I work with people in a huge age range. My oldest client to date has been 102, and he was still able to do 100 sit-to-stands, okay, as a challenge non-stop. Okay, so aging's a number, guys, okay? It's not your age, it's how you feel and how fit and active you stay. Now, with a little bit of time here, I'm actually going to do a live demonstration of the effect of exercise on your medication and why exercise can help your efficiency of medication. But to do so, I need 10 volunteers up on stage with me, and those people who can obviously quickly come up the stairs without falling up them would be fabulous. Gordon is a synapse, okay? So Gordon, you're going to hold your arms up, and a synapse, okay, what we're going to have is, here's the synaptic cleft, okay, is where a nerve speaks to another nerve. So Gordon's a synapse. Okay, these lovely 3 ladies here, you're just going to come and pop your hands on Gordon. And you guys are dopamine-releasing cells. Okay? And Gail back here is a nerve impulse. Okay? So remember that. Now let's have this John here. You are going to be the receiving synapse, so come this way a little bit. So you're just going to stand up and copy, you're going to face Gordon there, okay? And we will have you 3 here. We're going to have a hand on John. And you are the dopamine receiving cells. And Jennifer, you are the nerve impulse waiting to go. Okay? So, everyone with me? It'll come clear. Okay, so in a normal nerve, synaptic impulse, Gail travels down the nerve.
That's me.
Yep, so down the nerve, and you are going to touch the dopamine on the shoulders. Okay, these dopamine cells release, and you three are going to come across. Oh, you stay where you are, you're a synapse, you can't move. Okay, Gail, stay where you are, the three of you, stop. Okay, you're going to drift over here, and you are going to go and give a high five to a receiving cell. Oh, he's not a receiving cell, here's a synapse. Round the back. And then you receiving cells are going to turn round and give a high five to Jennifer. Okay, and then Jennifer takes that nerve impulse off down the stage, and that carries that nerve impulse on. Okay, we'll run through that again, so come back, Jennifer. Quick. So this is a normal synaptic nerve. Okay, nerve impulse goes down. Dopamine gets released across the synaptic cleft. Dopamine receiving cells take the message, and off the message goes. Good. Everyone back into position. Jennifer, we got. And now, unfortunately, you've got this synapse has now got Parkinson's. So we've lost 80% of the dopamine-producing cells. So you two, if you can just go stand over the back there. They've gone. Sorry. So then what happens when Gail sends a message down? We've only got one dopamine cell trotting across the cleft, which means that these guys, they get a bit sleepy because there's only one person to receive her. Okay, so then the message gets a little bit weaker. So in Parkinson's, the damage is happening at the presynaptic level where the dopamine is lost, but the receiving cells go to sleep because we don't have enough dopamine going across. Okay? So then what happens, Joy, we come back, is nerve impulse travels down. This person's been exercising. So this bit of dopamine comes across, but we've also added in the medication, which are you guys now. You can be artificial dopamine. Okay, but we come along and there's a bit of a jam, okay, because we've only got. Did you move? Yes. Oh! We've got a bit of a jam because these guys are asleep. So all this artificial dopamine is all trying to get onto one person. And it's a bit of a fight. So you're taking that artificial dopamine, but it's not necessarily quickening up the impulses. So we're all going to go back again. Last round, trust me. So we've got the artificial dopamine that's starting over there. You guys are the artificial ones now. Okay. This person's been exercising, and what exercise does, it opens up the receiving cells. So we get the same impulse goes down. Dopamine goes across, the artificial dopamine comes along, and everyone's open to receive it. Jennifer gets to take her impulse again. Thank you very much, guys. Off you go. Good work, Gordon. So that was just a fun way of showing you that exercise isn't going to change where the damage is, because the damage is at the presynaptic level, okay, where the dopamine loss is. Exercise is what we call, it's a neurorestoration, is we're opening up silent pathways. So it's the receiving cells go to sleep when there's not enough free dopamine in that area. So when you exercise and take your medication, you get best outcomes. So individual. So obviously Parkinson's is highly individual. We've got stages through the condition, okay, mild, moderate, severe. But as I mentioned earlier, we have started to subtype individuals from a physical point of view. If you are bradykinetic and you have that small, slow movement, the exercise we are going to focus on with you is that really big amplitude training. If you are tremor dominant, the exercise we are going to focus on with you is forced use. That is the sprinting on the bike. That is putting you on a treadmill and making you walk at 4 or 5 Ks an hour. Okay. The other third group, okay, subcategory is agility impaired, and that's another fancy way of saying it falls risk. Okay, so the exercise that we're going to work on you is dynamic balance. Now, all three obviously cross over because a lot of people with a tremor also have bradykinesia and also might be agility impaired. But it just helps you understand that you do not get treated as one-stop shop. And if you are seeing a therapist who's given you exactly the same exercise program of, this is my Parkinson's exercise program, follow this, it is not specific enough for your needs. As I mentioned, it needs to be fun, okay? That's part of the PD Warrior group that I take, okay? That they're there to have fun and have a good time, because life's short, okay? You've got to really enjoy it. So there we go. There's all the principles on that slide, okay? So it needs to be large amplitude, high intensity, powerful, challenging, individual, fun, and daily. So all of those who raised your hand earlier on in that talk who felt that they were doing exercise specifically for their Parkinson's, can you say you're ticking off all 7 principles? Put your hand up. Now if you think you are. Now those people, give them a good round of applause for those people who are. Okay? But it just highlights to you how difficult it is to exercise for that specificity. And a lot of you, this might just be new information. Okay? You've been told that exercise is good for Parkinson's. That's not new. But actually being specific for your Parkinson's. Now you guys are lucky you've got some access to some great resources here. I've met a few of the providers. We've got the, now if I get anyone's names wrong, I'm really sorry, but we've got the Canberra University, I think we've got Neurospace, we've got the Cerebral Palsy Alliance. You know, there's lots of really good, qualified exercise physiologists and neurophysios out there in your area to help provide this principle-based treatment. So remember, the magic happens when you get out of your comfort zone. And just to recap, exercise and medication every day. And we're not talking about like hours and hours of exercising. I'm talking about 10 to 15 minutes of Parkinson's specific exercise a day. 3 to 4 times a week you're getting out of breath. But the rest of the time you are being physically active. So think about that whole thing of 10,000 steps a day and that type of thing. So take home messages. Okay, you have the power to protect your brain and to slow the degeneration down. Okay, and again, I'm not necessarily saying that we can slow down the pathophysiology of Parkinson's, but we can slow down the pathophysiology of aging. Okay, and that's essentially where Parkinson's comes in hand. Okay, you've got to work intensively, okay, which is really hard when you spend half the time demotivated, apathetic, and depressed. So make sure those non-motor symptoms are being treated, okay, both from a mental health point of view, so clinical psychology, counselling, and from potentially a chemical medication point of view. Okay, and it's the principles are more important than the method. I don't mind what you do for exercise, as long as you try and get those 7 core principles in. Thank you very much, guys. It's been a pleasure talking to you.